Hello, Dr. Gower. So this is our Management 301 reflection video. We are going to sum up kind of our experience individually and as a team, our semester, and so I guess we'll start off with individual experiences. I guess talk a little bit about what we personally enjoyed the most out of the class, out of the activities of the class, and I guess what we took out of it, kind of give each other a little bit of feedback, what we benefited from the most, and go from there. So I guess I'll start us off. I think the most noticeable change for me was my attitude from the beginning of the semester to where we're at now. I think with the whole learning experience over the semester, we've gained sort of skills and different aspects of the business world, but as a person as well, where they've been able to play a role in my daily life. I would definitely say that I'm a bit of a better critical thinker now. I look at things more objectively, just because I understand that, the world isn't just affected by me and my decisions, and that, other people have a role in my daily life, and I need to be able to react to how other people are acting around me. But at the same time, a lot of my actions can have favor over others, so I have to keep in mind what I'm doing and be aware that my actions can have either repercussions or benefits based on what I'm doing. I think in terms of activities, the one that impacted me most would probably be the presentation we had to give. Out of all of the chapters, I can't say that chapter 7, which was our presentation, was my favorite, but I do think that I learned it the best, obviously, because we put so much time and effort into it, and we really worked hard on that presentation to the point where you could basically recite the chapter in your sleep, and you just kind of woke up with nightmares of chapter 7 in your head, and you were like, oh my god, not this again, by the time you were done. But it was a really great way of kind of learning the ins and outs of it, and it offered a unique perspective for me because you understand after doing your presentation what all the other groups went through, and it definitely brings you closer together as a team, I think, because you're working so many hours, you're putting so much effort into it. You have to start from the beginning, choosing just which part of the chapters you're going to go through and talk about, and then you have to go off of each other's ideas, so it can't just be a standalone, okay, I'm doing this part. You have to really listen to everyone else's parts and receive feedback and kind of incorporate their work into yours to really make it flow together. And so it was a fun opportunity for me to be hey, this is where I think you're doing a really good job. I'm actually going to include some of your part in my part because I think that sounds really good. And at the same time, it gave me a way to check back on some of the things that I would be saying in my section. So for example, giving each other feedback when we were doing our practice runs was a really big thing for me, because there was a lot of times in the beginning where I would either say way too much in a section because I talk forever, or I would kind of ignore a section and you guys would be like, oh, hey, this is kind of important. I would put a little more emphasis on this, or hey, you've talked about this way too long, you can probably cut that back and just talk about it at a more minimal level because you've gotten your point across already and you're just doing filler sections now. We don't have the necessary time for that. So I would definitely say that the presentations overall, it brought us closer together as a group for sure for me, because it was every night, especially in that last week, just going to Bocelli's, grabbing a couple pizzas, just sitting down all right, let's do this, and just hammering out a couple hours at a time, just practicing over and over again. Are we ready? Yeah. Do we feel ready? Yeah. Do we want to do another practice run? Yeah, and just like going over it, just because like we want to make sure it's really like that good finished product, and we know that we're really confident in it. And that was a lot of fun for me, because if I had to do like my own presentation, like if I just separated my section from the group presentation itself, and I just had to practice it and deliver it the same way that I delivered it in like the presentation itself, I would have gotten absolutely so bored just having to rehearse it myself and like not having anyone to go to. Sure, you could like go to the speaking center or whatnot, but being able to go through that experience as a group and like get feedback from you guys was really beneficial for me, and I think kind of resonated like in terms of how I want to approach future group work. It definitely made me realize the importance of like giving positive feedback and helping each other work on different things, because perspective wise you're never going to be able to see everything just from like an outside point of view, so it helps when you have other people to go to be like, hey, what did you notice, or what did you think I could improve on? So that was a really big one for me. Yeah.
So coming into the semester, I had no idea we were supposed to be doing group work. I didn't know that I was going to be paired with 3 other people, and that we have to fight through the whole semester with all these projects and juggling each other's schedules and everything. And then you get assigned these groups, and we do these icebreakers, and some of them are pretty awkward. But then after that, I mean, we just got along really well. It was really fun. Like, I remember me and you, we were standing on your balcony while those 2 were blindfolded. You ran into a car. That was the funniest. I saw videos.
Icebreakers were like traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
And just like, it was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Well, it was traumatic for you guys, baby.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, definitely. It was funnest time.
And that just kind of like set the standard, because I mean, like, we worked hard, but we also had a lot of fun, and just like all the group assignments, we always like, just when we got together, we'd always throw around ideas, and if someone had a good idea, then someone else would be like, yeah, I like that, and then, but can we change it to this? And then so at the end of it, what you got was the best possible idea that you could get, because all 4 of us had put our minds to it, and I figured it out. So it was as good as it could possibly get. We would all just help each other. Like, we would all check each other's backs, and if we did some mess up here and someone else would check it, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I got you, bro. So it was just nice to have that sense of camaraderie, because like I've had one other group in my academic career, and it was terrible because one person did, well, maybe not terrible because one person did all the work. We didn't even have to do anything. But with this, like, I was worried because this was actually going to be like a really rigorous group-oriented class, and I got really lucky that I got a cool group. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to do good work with good people, basically. And this is my first like real group experience, so it's been pretty awesome. I think I really liked our presentation. The presentation was probably like the proudest moment of my 2017 fall semester, because we put a lot of work into it. Like, the night before, we were all in a classroom eating pizza and watching Key and Peele between rehearsals of our run-throughs of our presentation. Like, it doesn't get much better than that,
You gotta laugh sometimes through the pain.
Exactly. Yep. So I mean, that's what made it fun. And then you just kind of go into the zone when you get in front of everyone, and I don't know, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun.
You were hyped up. Like, you were ready for that presentation. Like, you went in there and you're like, it's time to present. Let's go.
I had to go into like a different mindset.
Yeah.
And, like,
no, I saw it. It was cool.
I can't do that stuff normally. Like,
no,
speaking in front of
we
people.
believed in you.
Oh, thanks.
You were the anchor man. You brought it all home.
And then the volunteering. You were like SPCA forever, man. Like, I'm so glad you're my group just because you provided us with volunteering with dogs. That's the only reason.
I'm using the SPCA for another final project.
Oh,
for
really?
Another class, yeah, for an art class. I'm doing all like pictures of dogs and making them into like photos and stuff for the SPCA. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Dang.
Doggy baseball cards is the theme.
Oh my god.
And I gotta come up with like funny stats for them, extra. Like tail wags per minute.
Aww, that's so cute.
That's adorable.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
Dang.
But yeah.
We gained arm muscle from that experience. I know I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
my arms definitely are stronger
Dang.
after some of those dogs.
Yeah, man.
But totally worth it.
Yeah. There was
Well, we also
weekends.
got like really good like days for volunteering. Like all the weekends, like we had really nice weather. Even for like the
Well,
big event downtown. Like it was a little chilly, but it was like a nice day out, and
Yeah.
that was like super nice. Cause it's always fun to just sit outside and play with dogs. Like how can you go wrong?
Well, I didn't.
And like oh my god, I forget the total, but between like the time we started the semester and now, I asked my friend, I think there's been at least over 60 dogs that got adopted.
Really?
Yeah, because they had that really big weekend where they waived all the adoption fees. That was right after
Oh, yeah.
the hurricanes,
That's what we did.
because they were so overloaded with animals that they were like, hey, like we just gotta get some clearance. But I think like over the course of the semester, there's been close to like 30 dogs adopted, which was really cool because like I checked the SPCA website anyways, just because my friend works there, and like we're like, oh my god, who got adopted? But
Laura and I had like 5 different people
yeah.
come up and talk to us about our dogs. So.
But most of the dogs that we
Yeah.
like interacted with over the semester are out the door, in like permanent homes now, which is really
Nice.
cool.
Go us.
That's what I'm saying.
I
That's
think
all
not only
about
did
us.
we grow a bond together, we grew a bond with dogs.
I know,
You
right?
know?
Oh my
Also,
gosh.
hardest thing about volunteering was I wanted to adopt every single one of the dogs
Yeah.
that I handled, and
Yeah.
I needed the group support not to walk home with every single one of them, because I would have.
Dogs,
You guys almost adopted Haley,
Oh
didn't
my
you?
god, I did.
You wait, you actually adopted her?
No, I
Oh.
wanted to.
Oh. I'm like, wait, what?
I love that dog.
Yeah, she was cute.
It's a double-edged sword, the SPCA.
I know.
You
right?
enjoy your experience, but man, they
Then you have
just,
to leave and leave.
I know,
them
right?
behind.
It's
like,
it's
"Oh!"
tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
We gave him a good day though. So
We sure
This is
did.
true.
And we got them adopted. It's all us.
I definitely didn't think management would be so involved.
Uh-huh.
Like I didn't think it'd be like as much as it actually is. And really like going through all the chapters and reading about Blink and Carnegie really made me like realize like what it means to be a manager, like the responsibility you take once you're in that position. And I don't know, it just makes me appreciate like that kind of work now, like a lot more than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially like in simple jobs like in retail, like they put a lot of effort into their jobs to make their employees happy, and I don't know, it's good. It's
I
good to know
think-
about it.
I think going through this class, like, not only is it just managing, like the title, but it's like, it can like apply to your life. And it applies to like managing your own life, managing like your work, your schoolwork, your home, like whatever it is. And I think that like it really like leaves a seed in your head to like lead to other things.
Yeah, it's
Other-
funny. It's funny how like
bigger things.
applicable it is to just
Yeah.
everyday life. Oh, you brought up Carnegie, and that was a really funny point. I don't know if you guys watched The Big Bang Theory, but they did a spin-off show, Young Sheldon. I don't know if you guys have watched it yet, but it's so good. It's really good, the show, and it's like him going through high school. And so he is struggling, and he's like, I need to make a friend, and the librarian gives him Carnegie. And he applies all of like the Carnegie principles to like making friends throughout the whole episode. It was so funny because he just like stood there repeating people's names and like just trying to like be engaged in their life when you could tell he had like absolutely no interest, but he was like applying all those principles, and I was like, wow, like I learned that stuff, and that's like not how I would go about it, but it was really funny because I was like, LOL, Carnegie, and it's
I
in
remember the
real life.
Last class when Dr. Gower, what did she ask? She asked about like what is the one way to get yourself a job, and it's Carnegie. You know, people were
Yeah.
throwing out like confidence and like, you know, impressing. It's none of that. It's Carnegie. It's how you treat people. You know,
It's funny how like that's an old book, but it's stayed like true throughout, time. It's like once you figure out people, you figure out like how to be successful.
Yeah.
So
That's a
it's
hard
like
thing, though.
yeah, no, it is. It's hard, but like that's like I mean, it's kind of sure you could say like this is a tough course, and if you have to do a lot of work, but like if you figure it out, you're like 5 steps ahead of everyone else, because like dealing with people and groups and just like knowing how to interact in like a professional sense is like really important.
Usually I go into, this is for me personally, usually I go into group work thinking I'm going to end up doing all the work, or I'm going to like, you know, it's going to stress me out or whatever it is. And this like had a different, like more positive, approach. Like it was a positive one. I was like, oh, like these are some great people. Like it wasn't that like, how much work are we going to have to do? It was more, let's build these bonds, let's make these bonds stronger.
Mm.
Yeah, that helps.
Going back to what you said about the people, like understanding people, I work every summer at YCC where I lead groups of 10 girls aged like 14 to 17, and I have 2 other crew leaders, and we go to state parks and we live there for 3 weeks, and we do hard manual work all day long, pulling 8-hour days, and I'm a leader, so I'm in charge. And I can tell you, the work, I do the work with them, the work every day doesn't stress me out. What stresses me out is how I have to be a leader and put myself as a friendly figure, but also respected enough that they listen to me, but also open enough that if they have a problem, they'll come talk to me, and I can be their friend, but I also have to be their boss. Or if
You
one
have
of
to
them
be
acts
super
out,
multifaceted.
Yeah.
You have to be there in every situation that they could possibly need you, which
Yeah.
is really tough.
and if one acts out, I gotta deal with it. But I don't like confrontation, so. I mean, the thing that stresses me out is oh my god, people, they're so unpredictable. I know every day I have to go out and dig ditches, but I have no idea, no, literally. But,
Emily is the movie Holes.
But yeah, I was just worried and nervous about what someone would do that day and what I'd have to what I'd have to talk to them about, and how would it affect the rest of the group, and will this escalate into that everyone's in uproar, no one's listening to me, and people are running all over the place, and someone's always getting run over by a tractor or something. I don't know where that one I don't know where that one person acting out is gonna go. So the thing that stresses me out is the dynamics between the crew leaders and then me and my members, and then me and the other crew leaders, and just what's gonna happen that day, who's gonna do something, because people are unpredictable. You cannot predict them, and that's what stresses me out. I said 5 times.
One of the interesting things is just listening to you talk about that. It's almost like it all happens in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, pretty
You
much.
know, you have to make all these decisions in a blink of an
Oh,
eye.
Blink's
Yeah.
fun.
There you go.
Did you do it on purpose?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's why I was like, it all happens in a blink
Nice.
of an eye.
It does.
I'm gonna edit that out. Anyways.
But yeah, it does happen in the blink of an eye, because
Yeah.
if you got someone coming in who just
And you have to-
got a splinter or something, they're
And
gonna
you have
freak
to
out.
think about
You
all
can't
that
be
thing, if you leave the site for 2 seconds to take care of somebody who
Yeah.
rolled his ankle or whatever, it's well, what about your other members that are there? How are you gonna make sure they're doing what they need to do?
Yeah, it's stressful.
Here's what I think the funniest thing about you talking about this is.
Oh god.
I love how you talk about the unpredictability and you never know what the kids are gonna do, and 14 to 17-year-old, they're so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Adults are worse.
Oh well, yeah.
That's
That's true.
After
Independence
hearing
is strong.
the limited
Yeah.
experience I've had through internships, and just my dad has been a president of a company for 30 some odd years, and listening to some of the stories he tells me, it's just sometimes adults act worse than children. You never know who's gonna get upset about the smallest thing, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you say you've grown so much as a leader, and you're now capable to step into the business world, and you're prepared mentally, and you know what to expect, and it's the same thing. They're just bigger people,
Yeah.
and in more serious positions. You still have to be able to manage all of that range of emotions, and being able to accustom others to different tasks, and just get what people need to do across to them, and be able to tell them, hey, this is what I need from you in this time frame. At the same time, especially I think this really dawned on me this semester with graduating, in a year, and me moving out into the business world, and my friends and I were all talking about this, and we were once we graduate, it's not really you lose that college atmosphere. It's you don't hang around with your friends all the time. It's not that, oh, let's get together and do homework. It's your work, your coworkers become your friends. You become very close with them. So it has that very group atmosphere, but you have to maintain that level of professionalism, and you still kind of get all that tension that a group can bring. So it's a very interesting dynamic. I'm both excited and terrified to enter that kind of world, because college has been such a great experience for me, but at the same time I also want to move on, go to the next chapter of my life.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to me that you're still gonna have friend groups, but now it's not college based, it's work based. So you're gonna be working with people who are very similar to you, or not necessarily similar to you, but working on similar things that share a lot in common. So like I thought that was like a really cool thing for me to think about, was just like moving forward, how my relationship with friends or just like acquaintances for that matter is going to become so rooted in the job I get. And I think that's, especially for me, that's going to be a huge consideration. I know Dr. Gower talked about this a lot, but not just like going into a job interview and thinking like, oh, do I fit this job? It's, does the job fit you? Do you like fit in the atmosphere? And you have to really feel that out. You can't just say, oh, I got accepted into this position, like I'm gonna go for it. Because if it's not for you, you're gonna have an awful time. You're probably gonna want to leave and or get fired because you're not, you know, working up to the standard that you could be, just because you don't fit in there. And you have to really go for it.
That actually reminds me, Dr. Gower was always talking about her grad students and how horrible they are at presentations. And I was like, oh, it can't be that bad, like, they can't be that bad. But I'm taking an upper level course, it's a 400 level course with a bunch of grad students in it at Stockford.
Oh god.
And the graduate students have to do these presentations every week on a reading that they do. And some of these people are terrible. Like, they sit there and they literally read word for word off the computer screen, like they hold it up to their face and they're just like,
Oh my god.
When you're at a college level, I feel like it's just common knowledge that you shouldn't have to be dependent
exactly,
on
like,
reading
these are,
stuff
like,
off of like
literal
cards.
adults, like they're like all
Because I mean,
like,
how long are the
military
presentations that you're talking about?
background. Not even 10 minutes.
Yeah, like
Not even.
if you had to give an hour-long presentation, like people do like TED Talks for like hours,
Exactly.
and they just like are
Hours.
ad-lib, and sure they've rehearsed it and everything, but they're not staring at cards to
And
remember the
these
topics.
people are like grown adults, like half of them are like ex-military, and it's just
Really, that's
baffles me.
that's
Like, how can you
crazy.
like work this long and not know how to like talk?
For me, presenting things isn't so much like memorizing what I have to say.
It's being confident.
It's being confident, but it's also being able to just know what your topics are and being comfortable enough with the material to say, oh, if I was just placed in a room and someone asked me about it, I could have a genuine conversation with them and be that knowledgeable about it. So like, memorizing things is like the worst thing for me because I start to talk like a robot and I just sound awful and I hate the sound of my voice when I'm just like reciting something. I love being in a more like conversational kind of manner where I can react to what the audience or like the listener is saying and just base my like reactions or where I'm going with what I think I'm getting a positive reaction from. And I think that was really like highlighted very well throughout the course because, you know, we talk so much about looking at what other people's reactions are to the things that we're doing and being able to adjust and base our next kind of like step to what we see people are either taking like positively or negatively. Like specifically in an interview sense, we have to be able to adapt. Like, first of all, you have to be prepared for anything for an interview. Funny story, a couple of my friends went on interviews because they're graduating in the spring, and so they're doing job interviews now. And they got back from an interview, and they've done a couple of them, and I asked, like, how did it go? And they said, and this is like a direct quote, I don't know. He didn't ask me any questions. He wanted me to ask him all the questions. And I was like, oh my God. Like, because going into an interview, I don't think like, I mean, I would prepare questions. Like, I would definitely have a good bit to ask because, you know, you got to fit in there. But like, you basically have to conduct the interview yourself at that point. And so they really had to like be on their feet, and they're really good business students, and I have like full confidence that they rocked the interviews one way or another. They're just like, oh, I don't know how I went because that's how they are. But it was just really interesting to me because there's so much volatility in the sense that you don't necessarily know what you're going to get with an interview, so you can't just have like a carbon copy stamp of just this is me, this is who I am. You have to really be able to like adapt.
I think going off of that, I think one of the reasons why this course is so good at preparing you for life is because it throws you right into life.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, it's
That
not,
was the structure.
she's not sitting there and telling us a bunch of definitions and saying, now write me a paper. Or she's not throwing up a bunch of
that sort of
definitions and saying, you know, here's a test. No, it's like your test is like, okay, get in a group, people you may or may not know, and now like figure this out, figure that out, figure this out.
That
you know?
was the best part, I think,
Yeah.
because usually I hate textbooks. Not usually, that's just like a common trend. I absolutely hate textbooks. They're boring, they're dry, it's hard to read through. But this one, not only was it pretty like a good read because it was interesting to me, but the skill builder exercises and like there's not only were there like, oh, put yourself in these shoes, but it was like put yourself in your own shoes and kind of see a little bit more about yourself, self-reflect, and put yourself in this situation now as opposed to having to deal with it for the first time in 2 to 3 years.
Oh no.
And that's fine, I'll just,
Rest in peace.
What?
That wasn't recorded.
because we're gonna,
No, I'm kidding.
Oh my. Oh, my heart just. Is it or is it not?
No, it is.
Oh,
get out.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Another important thing like I thought was really interesting was the implicit versus explicit thoughts or attitudes that we went over in Blaine. The Harvard test that one group made us do really like brought to light a lot of biases that I didn't really realize that I had because I certainly don't think that I think that way. Like just understanding those biases like really like is important for a manager because like you're making important decisions for everybody about literally everything in a department of a company that you're working for. And you really just want to be inclusive because that's what makes or break a company, in my opinion. And like if you're not being inclusive, if you're not supporting your employees, if you're not taking care of them against harassment and inequality and encouraging diversity, then it's really like your company's not going to work because no one's going to want to work there because no one's going to want to deal with it.
Yeah, and people are actually being held accountable for
Exactly,
that now, so
especially
it's
nowadays.
it's actually important. People
So,
can't skimp on that.
Something really important, like she said in class, really resonated with me. It's how you behave on your implicit theories, which matters, and like you certainly shouldn't act on them. And like understanding them is super important, especially in this kind of work.
Yeah,
I think going back to what you said about like, or you said someone said about today's society's like, I feel like we have to be a step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be a step ahead of what's coming, you know, and that's why I think again this is so because it's like throwing you out there rather than memorizing, which is what I know I've been taught, even wherever like memorizing, like
Yeah.
actually being just thrown out there is almost something that I think in 10, 20 years, the kids that are in like little toddlers, they're gonna be thrown out and just. Here you go, just do it, and like let's see how you act, let's see what you think, and then we'll teach you like, oh, this is how you should have reacted, or this is what you should do, I think that's.
I mean, it's a different way of teaching, and I really appreciate like being able to like apply it to everyday life, and like not just like this means this, and this is how it works. Like if you're this, and it's just once you're out in the field, like you'd be like, okay, this is what it means, but like this is like. Why I should be doing why and how.
Yeah.
It's like the why and
Oh
how.
my god.
building off of what Laura said, I think the scary thing for me is with the whole like getting thrown out into the world. Dean McCondy referenced this when he substitute taught for that one class, and he was talking about your reputation and how important your reputation is in a professional sense. And the scary thing about this world is there's no room for mistakes because you make one mistake and you can ruin your career. And I think it's really valuable because Dr. Gower does have that kind of like no-nonsense attitude where you kind of are forced to take that responsibility on yourself in order to do well in this class and really excel, and that's preparing us overall for the kind of atmosphere that there's no room to slack off in like a professional sense. You do and you're getting the door. So at the same time, it's scary, but it's needed to kind of get out there in the world and be successful nowadays, because I think what's really becoming the norm is just there's so much competition. Like there are so many people in the world that could do everything you can do and 10 times more, and you have to consistently provide reasoning for why you are the best at what you can be in order just to stay ahead and like stay in the position that you're at. So just like, I appreciated the way like the course was taught, and I think that the exercises and kind of what we went through all like together really sets us up well for the atmosphere that we're gonna experience outside of class. And that was really encouraging thought for me, kind of looking back at it.
Yeah, because she treats the class like a model for like the real world,
Yeah.
like just a simplified version of reality. Because like most classes, like you go through your whole life and you're taught to learn for the test, and then you memorize stuff and then you forget it. That's not, you can't. There aren't any like legitimate tests
Life
like
is
that.
our test.
Oh my god, we're getting philosophical up in
Right,
here.
that's what I'm talking about. We touched on it a little bit earlier about the volunteering, but that was like a big thing for us because 15 hours is a significant amount of time to like spend together and like doing the same sort of stuff. Like it's a unique experience because it's outside of the classroom. You're not in that, oh, I have to do work setting. It's a much more relaxed setting. You're giving back. You're in a place where, especially with dogs, you remove a lot of stress from the equation. So I feel like it's you're almost dealing with different people. Like, especially since we did most of our volunteer work on the weekends, it's, I didn't just come from class, now I'm half asleep and I need like, 3, Advils to get my headache down because I've been listening to professors drone on and on. It's, hey, I'm like awake and I'm really excited because we get to play with dogs today and we get to, try to get them adopted, and it's a different atmosphere. And so like, for me, it was cool looking back because sure, like we're the same group, but at the same time, like we were different in those different kind of scenarios, and that was really like interesting to me.
Going off of that, I was gonna say that I think it's like we get to see like more aspects of each other. We don't get to see like the James that comes from class, class to class to class. Like we get to see like the Emily that on a Saturday, and I think that helps us when we do get back and we do have to like tackle a chapter. We do have to tackle a presentation, or because we can be like. Hey, like, we know, like, you might be having, like, maybe your attitude's a little off, and we know, like, hey, it's not you, it's, your day, or it's whatever's going on, I think that definitely helped, too.
Absolutely.
And I think being comfortable with your group members really helps with that too.
Yeah.
Because like I know I had a group last year and we all hated each other and it was hard getting anything done, and it was the last day and we were still working.
Dang.
Yeah, so.
That's the nicest thing about this is like I can sit here talking to you guys and it's easy because we can just look back and like talk about what we've done. So it's a much more enjoyable form of expressing myself for a final exam. I don't feel like pressured. I feel like actually this is like something I'd look forward to. I would want to just do this regardless, even if it wasn't like being graded. I would say, oh hey, like remember management, and like I learned a lot from that class. Like how about you guys? So that's.
It's also like a more like, not necessarily like a hanging out type of thing, like, but it's almost like, because like we're sitting here and like, there's no like, we're not stressing over like, did you get number 1 correct or number 2, it's more like, tell me your thoughts, let's talk about it,
There is no correct answer.
Yeah.
It's very fluid, like there's no like
Yeah.
one correct thing to do, like there's so many options that you could go about dealing with the situation, and that's pretty cool to think about. So.
Minus all the editing when we joke about, because we don't know what we're doing all the time.
Yeah.
But that's the fun in the group, for sure. From all of us
Yeah.
at Management Inc.,
Even though I don't even-
we thank you for watching
Can we
and
like
listening
make
to
up
our
a
video.
handshake to do at the end or something? Okay.
Oh my god.
Go team!
Oh.
Management Inc. for the win. We made it, guys. We made it through the semester. We are a team. We are a cohesive unit, and I definitely think we're like better like as friends too, and like better as people from like the semester. So it was a lot of fun working with you guys. We fought through it all together, and we made it. Congratulations.
Can we just round of applause for ourselves,
We
please?
made it.
Let's go. Round of applause. Awesome.
Cut and scene. That's a
Awesome.
wrap.